is Village Vice. I'm Zach Blackerby. He is the Brad Law. And look, we talked a lot this offseason, really the past two off seasons, about a bunch of kind of different rivalries, right? With this whole conference realignment talk that's followed all of college football and college athletics over the last few years. There's been a lot of talk about who do you want to play every year? And a lot of these, like, okay, dang, we're going to have to lose Auburn, Ole Miss every year. And I think Auburn-Arkansas has turned into this interesting rivalry with the Gus Malzahn tie and, you know, Hugh Freeze. It seems like every coach that Auburn hires coached in the state of Arkansas because they coached for Arkansas State for one reason or another, which is very odd. But the Auburn-Arkansas rivalry is interesting to me because, Brad, tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, but it seems like Arkansas hates Auburn way more, way more than Auburn hates Arkansas.
1,000%. Yeah. Arkansas is a very interesting program. Arkansas has money, and not just one or two. Like, there's a lot of big money in Arkansas. Geographically, they're sort of like, they're not directly in the Southeast. They're not Midwest. They're kind of caught in between, but there's enough resources in Arkansas that they historically should be more elite. You could argue that they should be more elite because of the support and because of the resources and because there's nobody else that competes with Arkansas in the state.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if they look at Auburn and go, you know what? They're not the university of, regardless of what you hear on signing day or commitment dates from some of these high school seniors.
Sure.
It's not the university of. There is another school they compete directly with at the same level. And yet Auburn has been historically far more successful. And yeah, they got Gus Malzahn, and Tommy Tuberville would just go duck hunt in Arkansas. He wouldn't be the head coach there. I absolutely think that it's much more it's one-sided. It's one-sided hatred.
And every week, you know, I try to listen to as much content created by folks that cover and follow Auburn's opponent just to kind of get the full perspective of every matchup and bring that to, you know, the different shows that I do, including this one.
Yeah.
And the way they talk about Auburn versus the way we talk about Arkansas are two totally different things. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that I think this is a winnable game for them and this is a big deal for them. But on the other side of the coin, like, Auburn's way more concerned about Alabama. Auburn's way more concerned about Georgia. Auburn's way more concerned about LSU and this year Ole Miss. Like, Arkansas is pretty far down the list as far as what Auburn fans are focused on. But the interesting thing is, Brad, I tweeted about it earlier in the week. Arkansas folks would rather talk about the backward spike by Bo Nix than talk about their own football team. And that's their favorite thing to talk about, it seems like. And this week gives them the ability to do that. And just no matter what type of Arkansas podcast I'm listening to, that has come up in literally all but one episode of Arkansas content that I've listened to this week.
Well, the teams have met, I guess, 32 times. Auburn's won 19. So it's 19, 12, and 1. So
right.
They've had the firm upper hand in the series. And until last year's game that you can put an asterisk, but let me tell you something, brother. If you're going to put an asterisk by the 2020 game, you better put one by 2022 as well. I mean, I think that's fair because you had a head coach that was on his way out and you had seismic shifts that were about to take place within the program, and everybody knew it. So, but prior to last year, Auburn had won 6 straight in the series, and some of those scores, Zach, think about some of those Gus Malzahn. I think the era that really did it was the Gus Malzahn era.
Totally.
It's not as juicy now. Like, that flame has been, squelched a little bit, but think about some of these scores now: 56-3, 52-20, 34-3, 51-10. That was a 4-game stretch under Gus where those games just weren't competitive. Even the closest of those 4 just flat out weren't competitive. So, however, I think Arkansas this year feels like this is a gettable game.
Yeah, it is.
And they won last week, so they feel like they're rejuvenated, and they're going to talk a little more because they feel like this is one they can get.
This is one they can get. I don't think
Sure.
there's any question about it. This is one that they can get. I don't think it's because they beat Florida last week. I don't think that train of logic really makes sense, and I don't think all the dots are fully connected. And that's the biggest narrative that we've heard on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
This week. I don't know if that's necessarily why. I think more of this is about Auburn. I think it's is Auburn on the road going to look like Auburn has been on the road outside of Vanderbilt? And look, let's call it Vandy. I mean, that felt like a home game, right? Everybody that I've talked to that was there, it felt like a home game for Auburn. And so was Peyton Thorne in the offense's struggles because it was physically away from Jordan-Hare Stadium, or was it because it was in front of a rowdy crowd? I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's the first one, if it's just like physically being outside of Jordan-Hare Stadium, okay, then great. That's awesome. He looked good in Nashville. Maybe he can carry that same energy to Fayetteville. But I think we all agree the energy in Fayetteville towards Auburn when they run on the field is going to be vastly different than the way it was in Nashville last week.
It'll probably be the third most raucous crowd that they've faced. I mean, it'll be a more raucous environment than Berkeley.
Sure.
Not as heated as Baton Rouge or College Station. So
Agreed.
Somewhere in the middle of what they had in those other 4 road games. And what was interesting is the formula for the success early was the ground. It was the running game. And the cliches are cliches because they're true more often than not. And running game and defense travel. And I would expect to see Auburn do the same thing Saturday, and that is run behind Jarquez or go on Jarquez's shoulders and try to establish the running game and make some big plays early there. That way, Peyton is a little more comfortable and he's using the run to set up the pass.
Yeah, and we didn't see Peyton use his legs a ton against Vandy. He used his legs to kind of keep the play alive, or to, instead of getting sacked, that'd be a 3-yard run. And over the course of the game, I think he ended with 40 yards rushing. It was somewhere in that ballpark if it wasn't dead on that. But I think we may see a little bit more of okay, Jarquez Hunter's on the field. You're going to focus on him. Maybe he pulls it a little more often, because I didn't really get the feel that they needed to. And why like offer your quarterback up to extra hits if that's the case. But I think Auburn's going to be able to run the ball. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the buy-sell segment coming up. But over the course of the season, Arkansas has allowed 137 yards on the ground per game.
Okay.
Which, when you hear that, it's like, oh, that's pretty good. That's respectable. But when you look at what they've done in conference play, Brad, the 6 games that really, really matter, LSU, they allowed 189, Mississippi State 120. That was that 7-3 game.
Yeah.
Bama 177, A&M 204, Ole Miss 196, and then Florida in their win 112. And you look at that, and it's like, okay, well, that's 163 yards per game. So 30 yards more, right? So, that's pretty sizable. But when you look and you take the average yards per game that those 6 SEC teams have had all year, it's right on it. They're averaging as a whole 160.5 yards per rush. Or per game. So when you look at it, they're allowing the average.
Yeah.
Auburn's averaging 190 on the ground a game. And if that stays true, Brad, stays true, and Auburn rushes for 190, they win on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep, I think you're right. And what would that number be were it not for a couple of penalties that you hope they get cleaned up and you don't see that replicated in this game Saturday? It might be closer to the 200 range. I think it's a really good point to bring up, because this is not September. This is November. You have a large enough sample size overall and in conference games. It tells me the defense isn't disrupting teams' identities. You're not forcing teams into doing something that they don't want to do, or else those numbers would be a little bit out of sync. So that's a good thing for the Auburn offense.
No, and you mentioned it's November. And you know what the best thing about November is?
What's that?
It's the best month to buy a house.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best month to buy a house, and you need to check out our friend Ross Kilpatrick, and he will sell you a house or sell your house, serving the Auburn area with locations in Auburn, Lake Martin, and Fort Walton Beach, Florida. From Auburn to Lake Martin to the Emerald Coast of Florida, contact Ross Kilpatrick with Exit Realty Anchor South for all of your real estate needs. Buy your significant other a house on the lake. Just do it. Merry Christmas. You know what I'm saying.
Why buy a stocking stuffer when you can buy the house with the chimney and the fireplace to put the stockings up on? Sorry for ending on a preposition, but whatever, you got the point.
No, that's right. That's right. Ross Kilpatrick, give him a call, 334-402-0028. He brings us the buy-sell segment each and every week. Auburn rushes for their average of 190 yards per game. Are you buying or selling Brad Law?
I am buying it. I love a patient Jarquez Hunter. And I think that Arkansas likes to bring some exotic blitzes, and you don't know where it's coming from, or down in distance. Don't see it. Like T. Will's doing a good job with pressures, but I think if Jarquez is patient the way he's been the last few weeks, you give your offensive line, your tight ends, an opportunity to pick up that pressure, and you find a crease. And I think Jarquez is in the zone right now. So yes, Auburn hits its average.
Yeah, I think so. I think they do as well. I am curious to see what the share of touches are. Like Damari Alston, he's got another week now. You got to think he's a little bit more up to speed. And then is Jeremiah Cobb eventually going to get more than one touch a week? Who knows? Who knows? His average is pretty good. I don't know if we want to mess that up, but maybe if we give him 2 touches, he'll score 2 touchdowns.
No, that's the train of thought. If he's at 100% efficiency the last 2 weeks, maybe give him 5 touches and let's just build a 35-0 lead.
Let's try it. Let's try it. It's like somebody makes three straight threes. It's like, let him shoot the 4th one. I don't care if he's covered. Just do it. Let's just see what happens.
You want to try it? Let's just try it.
All right,
real quick, the question about Damari. I love Damari. I love deuces. All right. I'm on record going back to maybe our very first episode in August. I love Damari Alston.
Sure.
How much do you take it out of Jarquez's hands, though? If he's rolling now, if he's averaging 6, 7, 8 yards a carry, man, you can't split the ball. I just don't know how much you take it out of his hands.
Yeah, and it's not like he's been overworked this season. And, last week we kind of had the debate. I said, 15-ish, and you said closer to 20, and I'm like, I don't know. And then he had 19, and that's not including a few touchdowns that were called back.
Yeah.
And it looked fine. It didn't feel like too much. It didn't look like too much because he hasn't been like overworked at all this season.
Yeah.
And this is a game you got to have. So I agree with that.
And Auburn's not off next weekend. But all due respect, they don't have a conference game. You're not going to need to run Jarquez 22 times against New Mexico State. So if you need him to have 20, 21, 22 carries to win on the road in this environment, then okay, you get him a little time off next week.
I'm with you. Let's stay with Jarquez Hunter here. Jarquez Hunter has more yards from scrimmage than Arkansas running back Rocket Sanders.
Yes, I buy that as well. I buy that. I think Auburn's offensive line is better against the Arkansas D-line than Arkansas's O-line is against Auburn's D-line. I think that matters. I think Auburn's D-line wins the line of scrimmage. And it might be close, maybe, but I just think, I like Jarquez there. I buy it.
Peyton Thorne.
Are you buying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Because I think it has more to do with the supporting cast. Like, I think if Arkansas is going to beat Auburn, it will be because of KJ, not because of Rocket. However, Rocket Sanders has the best name in this matchup. If you can.
All right.
Peyton Thorne scores multiple times on Saturday.
Scores like multiple. If he throws 2 touchdown passes, does that count?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll buy that.
Okay.
I buy it. I'm going to go split 50-50. I think Auburn gets a couple of rushing scores, a couple of passing scores. He did it against Vandy.
If Auburn scores 4 touchdowns, I have a hard time seeing them lose this game.
I agree. We've just given away the drama for our final 6-pack pick.
I don't know. We booked pretty hard on this show. So, all right, buy or sell. Auburn extends their streak of games with a turnover to 19 straight games.
That one's a little tougher because I think the ball is going to be in KJ's hands a lot, and I think and Rocket protects the ball pretty well. I'll go. I will call for the upset, and the streak has to end at some point. And so I will sell. And I do not think Auburn gets a turn. Turnovers help you win on the road. They're big on the road. They're momentum
Huge.
killers. But streaks got to end at some point. And so I'll, for the heck of it, say that it ends Saturday.
I agree that it's got to end. I don't think it ends this weekend. I think KJ Jefferson, he's thrown 8 interceptions. We talked about this at Stat Time yesterday.
Yeah.
5 of those have come when he wasn't under pressure. I think Auburn's defense is able to do enough to get something, something.
That's you using reason and logic to back up your pick. Good for you.
Which is weird because I'm an emotional wreck all the time. So, our last one, buy or sell. Peyton Thorne plays every snap at quarterback for Auburn against Arkansas.
Buy it. Yep, I buy it.
No Jarquez direct snaps because that would count.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That would count.
Yeah, I'm still going to buy it. I think they are all in right now on Peyton running the offense, and they've shown that play with Jarquez a couple of times. I do think that there is a desire to go back to it since it got called back last week. But I think that may be a play you see again in the Iron Bowl, not the Arkansas game. So sell. I'm sorry, buy Peyton.
Yeah, about to say you just made an argument for it. Yeah, I'm buying that too. I'm buying that too. Serving the Auburn area with locations in Auburn, Lake Martin, Fort Walton Beach. Check out our buddy Ross Kilpatrick, Exit Realty Anchor South. Give him a call, 334-402-0028. All right, we move from one weekly segment of buy sell to another with our weekly 6-pack.
Weekly 6-pack. That's where we pick 6 games across the country, including Auburn's game. And we're going to get about halfway through these. I just want to tease it right now. And then we're going to tell you about our friends at Manscaped. But we're going to get halfway through the 6-pack first. By the way, if you're going to go to manscaped.com, and it's probably good to get about halfway through the 6-pack before you do that. Okay, so Saturday, 3rd-ranked Michigan is at number 10 Penn State. I spy a top 10 matchup in Happy Valley. Michigan, a 4.5-point favorite. Who you like, Zach?
I like what history says, and that is what happens when Penn State plays Ohio State or Michigan. So give me Michigan.
All right. I like it too. I think that Michigan has embraced the role of the villain of late, and I think those kind of things galvanize teams. So whether you like them or you don't like them, learn to love them. I think they're going to win the game on the road, and that's not an easy place to win, as we all know.
Right.
All right, 18th ranked Utah is at number 5 Washington. Washington, a 9.5-point favorite. Can they keep the undefeated train rolling up there in Seattle?
I think they can. It's going to be a lot of points because that's what Washington does. But I'm not picking against Michael Penix right now.
And you know what? Quietly, Kalen DeBoer is doing a tremendous job.
He's doing great.
Washington coach now. You know, he's married to Penix. So how does it change when he's not the quarterback there, or does it change? But yeah, he took that program from mediocre levels to now they're among the best in the country.
No question.
I like Washington there too. Our first SEC game, Tennessee is a 2-point favorite in Columbia against Missouri. It's a top 15 game. Tennessee number 13, Missouri number 14. Tennessee a 2-point favorite. What do you think? I kind of like the Tigers at home. I'm finally ready. And it's not because of how they performed against Georgia or any of that, but I think maybe it's that I still have a little bit of unbelief in Tennessee.
Sure.
So I like Missouri at home.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables in this one, but I'm going to go with the team that I think is more talented, and that is the Tennessee Volunteers. We've seen this before, like historically. For a long time, it was Alabama. For a decade, it was after you lose to Alabama, you have a hard time rallying. I think that's Georgia now.
Yeah.
I think that's Georgia now. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Volunteers in this one.
All right. So we differ on our first one.
Finally.
You know what we don't differ on, and that is how great Manscaped is. Zach, it is the best in men's grooming. And if you're ready to spice up your Thanksgiving, we dive headfirst into those mountains of mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. Let's talk about the unsung hero of holiday season, all right? And that's the Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0. 5.0. That's right. It's time to go cold turkey on your old razor. Take care of your own turkey leg with a Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Know what I'm saying? Visit Manscaped manscaped.com. Use the promo code VICE, VICE. Get 20% off and free shipping and enjoy Thanksgiving in style with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. That's the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Gobble, gobble, boys. Manscaped.com. Promo code VICE for 20% off and free shipping. Continuing now, the Village Vice 6-pack.
You have so much fun doing those, and I love it.
I do, and you have a lot of fun listening to them, and so does our audience. So we're going to keep it up.
That's right.
All right, Oklahoma State is all the way up to number 15 after a win in Bedlam. They have maybe the most underrated running back in the country, and they're in Orlando to take on the Fighting Malzahns.
Right.
And Oklahoma State is a 2.5-point favorite. This game's got Gus Special written all over it, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Gus is good at this, 1 or 2 game plans a year, and one was Arkansas consistently, and then the other was usually the Iron Bowl. I'm going to pull the upset here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Gus.
Okay.
Yeah, give me the Knights.
All right, you're going UCF. I'm actually not, even though I said it's got a Gus Special written all over it.
Yeah.
I think their running backs, Ali, is really, really good, and UCF just hasn't been able to turn that corner this year.
Right.
First year, new league, step up in competition is tough. And I just think they're getting some harsh realities there. So I'll go Cowboys. How about a top 10 matchup over in Athens? Is Georgia going to do it again at home? They're a 10.5-point favorite against number 9 Ole Miss. Is this a breakthrough, a breakout for Ole Miss? Can they get a signature win like this for Lane?
I don't think so. They haven't done it yet, and I have a hard time seeing them do it in Athens. I think they're going to be really aggressive. I think they're going to probably be in it maybe at halftime, but over the course of 60 minutes, just the force of Georgia, I think is going to wear them down. Georgia, when you have their full undivided attention, they whoop you. And Ole Miss isn't going to be a team that just sneaks in there. So yeah, give me the Bulldogs, and I also think they cover.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's particularly close. That offense in the second half is trouble. I mean, it's maybe the best second half just eye test in the country.
They wear you down, man.
Yeah,
that's what makes them so good. They're deeper than you.
Yeah, it's like what was the line in Remember the Titans? Like Novocaine, give it time, works every time.
Nice.
Auburn at Arkansas is our final game in the 6. Have you seen Remember the Titans?
Let's talk about Auburn-Arkansas, please.
You haven't seen Remember the Titans.
I didn't say that, but let's talk Auburn-Arkansas. Let's finish off the 6-pack. Why don't we?
Okay. Auburn's at Arkansas. Arkansas is 2.5-point favorite. Let me stress that again. Arkansas is a 2.5-point favorite. So if I say Auburn isn't supposed to win this game, technically that's a true statement.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think Auburn wins.
Yeah.
I think Auburn wins. I really do. There's a lot of matchups that go into a football game, and I like Auburn on most of them. I really do. And what Arkansas did against Florida, I don't think was anything crazy. I don't think it was anything crazier than what Auburn did against Mississippi State or Vandy the past few weeks. And for all the folks that are saying, well, Auburn can do it against Mississippi State and Vandy, they can't do it against the real team. And it's like, well, Mississippi State beat Arkansas in Fayetteville not that long ago, and we're acting like that didn't happen. Just because they fired their offensive coordinator doesn't change who they are fundamentally as a team. So give me the Auburn Tigers. I think this is going to be a big one for Hugh Freeze.
I think it is too. I think it's going to be a struggle. I think it's going to be another one-score game, just like every game Arkansas has played in the last 2 months. I don't think Auburn's able to get out to a 2-touchdown lead and then keep them at bay the rest of the way. I think it's back and forth and one of those dramatic games that we all need Tums for when it's over, because I get a feeling it's going to be one of those. What Arkansas has done is they've done a little better, or they did against Florida. Take that with a grain of salt. They hid their deficiencies better by going faster and by using more of the RPO game. Does that sound familiar? And it makes them a more challenging team to prepare for defensively. But at the end of the day, I like Auburn's D-line better. I like the linebackers. I like the defense as a whole better. And I like Auburn's running game better. And running game and defense, I think, make a difference in these games. So for that reason, I like Auburn close.
Let's do it. Absolutely. I'm there with you. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
Yes, it does. Thanks everybody for watching. Remember, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.